All right, welcome. Today, we're going to tackle a concept that sounds, well, completely backwards, but it's absolutely fundamental to corporate finance and law. So let's jump right in and explore the fascinating legal framework that can turn a business loss into a super valuable asset. Okay, so let me ask you this directly. When you think about a business loss, what pops into your head? Failure, right? Red ink on a spreadsheet, something you want to avoid at all costs. But what if I told you that in the world of corporate law, a loss can actually be one of the most valuable things a company can have? And this, right here, this is the core of it. On the left, you've got the common sense view we all have. A loss is bad, it's a liability, a problem. But on the right, you see the statutory view, how things look through the very specific lens of the law. And in that world, a loss isn't a failure, it's a right. It's not a liability, it's a potential asset. So how on earth is that possible? Well, that's exactly what we're here to unpack. We're going to dig into this counterintuitive truth, and we're not going to do it with opinions or complicated accounting theories. Nope, we're going to stick strictly to what the law itself actually says. Now, this is super important to get straight. We're not talking about some clever loophole or financial magic trick here. This entire concept is built on a really solid foundation, the plain written text of the law, stuff that's been on the books for decades. Okay, so how does the law actually pull this off? Let's build the legal argument together step by step. And it all starts with the most basic piece of the puzzle. What even is an asset? Everything, and I mean everything, hangs on this one definition from Block's Law Dictionary, the gold standard. And check out the key words here. Any property or right that has economic value. See? It's incredibly broad. It doesn't say something that made you a profit. It just says any right that has value. So this is it. This is the whole chain of logic. Let's walk through it together. Step 1. The law gives a company a legal right to use something called a net operating loss, or NOL, as a deduction against future income. Step 2. Well, that right obviously has economic value, right? It saves you cold, hard cash on your future taxes. Step 3, and here we go, right back to our definition. A right that has economic value is an asset. It just is. And finally, step 4, and this is the kicker, Congress never wrote a law that says you can't classify it this way. The logic is, well, pretty much airtight. So here's the bottom line. If you just read the law as it is written, there is absolutely nothing stopping a company from documenting a net operating loss as what it is, legally speaking, an asset. This isn't just an opinion, it's a conclusion based purely on the text. Okay, so that's the legal theory. But is it just, theory? No way. This has been happening in the real world for over 70 years. So let's dive into the corporate playbook and see exactly how it's done. First up, the oldest and probably most common method is what's called a reverse merger. This is where a profitable company actually goes out shopping for a company that has a ton of losses, specifically to get their hands on that asset. Here's the play-by-play. A profitable company finds and buys another company whose only real property is a huge pile of old losses. Through the merger, those losses, those valuable legal rights to tax deductions, they just transfer over by law. And the result? The acquiring company now gets to use all those losses to wipe out its own future tax bills. They've literally monetized the other company's red ink. The second method is pretty similar, but think of it more like packaging up those losses and putting a for sale sign on them. A big company can actually bundle its valuable losses inside a smaller, separate company, a subsidiary, and then sell it. Yeah, picture it like this. A large corporation takes all of its losses and basically shoves them into one specific legal box, the subsidiary. Then it sells that whole box to another company. And you better believe that buyer is willing to pay a premium for it because they know exactly what's inside, a goldmine of legal tax deductions. Now, this third method is a little different. It's not some big special transaction. It happens inside a single large corporation, just as part of its normal day-to-day business. It's a way to turn a loss into an asset almost automatically. So imagine one part of a company, let's call it Company A, provides a service to a sister company, Company B. Now, to provide that service, Company A has to spend real money, right? That's an expense, a loss. But at the exact same time, it creates a bill for Company B. That bill is an accounts receivable, which is just a fancy term for a legally documented right to get paid. And what did we learn from our definition? A right with economic value is an asset. Boom. The activity that generated the loss instantly created a documented asset on the books. And for our last method, this is where the curtain is really pulled back. You can see this principle plain as day when you look at how huge corporate deals, like mergers and buyouts, are actually put together. I mean, during these massive high-stakes negotiations, a company's net operating losses are literally put on a spreadsheet and assigned a specific dollar value. They are treated no differently than other intangible assets you've heard of, like goodwill or patents or a big customer list. The loss is explicitly counted as a valuable part of the deal. So we've looked at 4 really different methods, right? Mergers, sales, internal billing, deal valuations, but they all boil down to one single, powerful, unifying idea. So whether it's an acquisition, a subsidiary transfer, or an internal agreement, these are not shady backroom deals. They're all standard, totally legal corporate finance tools. This is just the real-world machinery that puts that simple legal theory into profitable practice. So what's the big takeaway here? It's that these companies aren't inventing assets out of thin air. All they are doing is structuring their business in a way that connects a financial loss to a legally enforceable economic right. And once you make that connection, the law itself does the rest of the work. That's the key. And that leaves us with a pretty wild final thought, doesn't it? If the strict, written text of the law can completely flip our common sense idea of a loss on its head, it really makes you wonder, what other fundamental concepts in business and finance that we just accept as true are really just a matter of legal definition? Something to think about. Thanks for joining me.